So there were a few conversations going around about this that I kind of popped into. I saw them on social media a little bit here and there. But overall, I feel like a lot of the Toronto Maple Leafs discourse, right now at least, post Auston Matthews signing, is about William Nylander. And rightfully so, we've been making videos about hypothetical trades, people are making their articles, they're writing their proposals, it's all cool, it's all predictable, we knew this was going to happen. But what I wanted to focus on instead was one of the guys whose contract expires 2 years from now. Not the Matthews-Nylander guys who are expiring in 2024, but one Mitch Marner, who expires in 2025. Because with this Auston Matthews extension given out, $13.25 million a year, one may ask the question, okay, where does Mitch Marner go with this? Because when it comes to Auston Matthews, he is probably one of the best players in the league, one of the best forwards, one of the best centers. You could say that there is a big three with Matthews, McKinnon, McDavid, not in that order, of course, but you have those guys. You can toss around Draisaitl's name in there, it's whatever. Auston Matthews, though, being the most expensive player in the NHL, you can make the argument that it's kind of worth. And especially so when you consider the time of when all these contracts had been signed, the salary cap situation, where in the timeline everything fits in. Auston Matthews, McKinnon, and McDavid making 1, 2, 3 highest amounts of money in the NHL, that's not the worst thing in the world. However, when it comes to Mitch Marner, this guy has already been the second highest paid winger in the entire NHL for a while now. Just behind Artemi Panarin, Marner is making $10.9 million a year. And when it comes to the extension process, that in which is going to kick off next year, you may be wondering, okay, last time Auston Matthews was making a salary cap hit, which saw him making $11.6 million a year. That's about $700,000 more than Mitch Marner. If you're going Matthews to 13.2, are you keeping Marner in that same range behind Auston Matthews? If you work everything out, does that mean that Mitch Marner signs his next contract in the NHL for something in the $12.5, $12.6 million range? That kind of raises some eyebrows, because that is right in the same territory of McKinnon and McDavid. To help us out, we're going over on to Elliotte Friedman because he had a little quote on 32 Thoughts last week. What is Marner's next number? Because he was the closest one to Matthews. When Matthews signed for $11.634, all of a sudden Marner became close to an $11 million player. So now Matthews' number is 13.5. What's Marner's number? Is it 13.249? Now, when you think about it like that, hey, is Marner going to make the same amount of money as Auston Matthews? Probably not. You could say that Marner is maybe a better point scorer, but just in general, you'd say Matthews is probably the better player, right? But just how far apart is that gap? And how far apart is that gap going to be reflected in terms of the money? Because if you give Marner a contract that is more expensive than Connor McDavid, all of a sudden there's a rift in the perception of how this league is played. Sure, Matthews, McDavid, McKinnon, the big 3 M's going out there with the top dollar amounts, that's fine. But having Marner in that conversation too, that does not really feel right to me. It kind of ticks off the spidey sense in a weird way. Heck, even having Marner making a significantly higher dollar amount than Artemi Panarin, that already is setting off some flares in my mind too. In fact, this tweet from NHL Watcher that had the Friedman quote had a bunch of replies, a bunch of quotes, everybody saying similar things. Oh, Marner at $13 million is hilarious. Oh, Marner is way too inconsistent to be given $13 million. Marner is worth closer to $10 million. Marner was overpaid already. This is where Jeff Fayette comes in and quote tweets the entire conversation here. He says that I can't believe we're doing this again. It's hard to see Marner above $12 million right now, even with a $4 million ceiling increase next year. If he has another big year, it might get him 12.5. If we're talking about Matthews or more, you trade him. Marner discourse is so exhausting. He's either evil incarnate or he's winger Gretzky. There's never any in between. We never get a stretch where we can just treat him like an elite forward. It makes no sense. It's been 7 years of this. I am so tired. And we know that Marner has one of the more strange reputations in the NHL. A lot of that has to do with the inconsistencies. A lot of that has to do with his bad moments. His bad moments are really, really bad. And when I say bad moments, I'm referring to, in particular, the puck over the glass against Montreal in that 2021 series. Yeah, I feel like that in particular moment kind of shaped up the way a lot of people are doomed to think about Mitch Marner for years to come, because even though Marner is a good player, we know he's a playmaker at heart, we know he can get points, he's got 90 points in back-to-back years, he's a great scorer when it comes to just regular on-ice production, but when it comes to the things that actually help your hockey team win, Marner has been on the receiving end of some really bad moments, career-defining moments that have not been shaken off because he has not had that Stanley Cup to his name yet. Once he wins a cup, or once the Maple Leafs win a cup with Marner on that core, you're not really going to be seeing people talking about Marner as the guy who flipped the puck over the glass anymore. They're not going to talk about him as this devil incarnate guy that's just such an anchor for the Leafs who's been overpaid and he's like the big bad boogeyman as to why Toronto has all these problems. For Auston Matthews, he got that 60-goal season. People don't care anymore. Yeah, he's a 60-goal guy. We know his reputation in the NHL. He is one of the best shooters this hockey sport has ever seen. So he's getting the pass. Marner has not really had that quality yet. And so, even though he is a very good player, there still is a lot of discourse surrounding Marner saying, hey, is he worth this amount of money? Is he not? What's the gap between him and Matthews now that Matthews has the extension? And realistically, I feel like Jeff Fayette kind of hits the nail on the head here. You can't really see Marner above 12. If you go over to $12 million contracts, I mean, there's only been 3 handed out ever, and it's McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon. Having Marner in that territory where he is in the same stratosphere as McDavid, or McKinnon, who had recently signed a contract too, that doesn't really feel right. He can't go out there and use Nathan McKinnon as a comparable contract to Mitch Marner. It just doesn't really fit. And so when you think about other wingers, hey, Panarin, 11.6, Pasternak, 11.25, you've got Matthew Tkachuk, who is in there in Florida making 9.5, and then you have other wingers like, hey, Huberdeau, that guy's a 100-point player, 10.5. So this Mitch Marner thing, I feel like when it comes to Kyle Dubas and the way he handcuffed the Maple Leafs with all these big money deals and the expectation that they're going to get bigger increases as their next contracts come along, Mitch Marner is in the worst spot of it all because he's a guy that I feel like if you give out that money, the big bucks out too, he's not worth it. Straight up. You could justify 11.5, but I feel like you can't justify 12. Matthews got such a substantial pay increase per season, but he is a good enough player to justify that. Marner, I don't really think you can. And so, if the Maple Leafs end up not getting Nylander back, they have all that money freed up because they're not able to re-sign him, then who knows what they're going to do with those extra dollars. Are they going to get some more players? Are they going to use that money to entice Marner to a long-term 8-year deal or whatever? Re-sign Tavares, you kind of have to do that too. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Mitch Marner conversation. What is the dollar amount for him now that Matthews has been given his extension? Is Marner in that same territory? Do you see the similar gap between Matthews and Marner for their next contracts as you had seen in the prior extensions from before? Does Mitch Marner reach that Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon dollar amount territory? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.